Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode with Unique Speaks. Over here talking about what I'm talking about. And y'all already know we on this series of trauma to triumph. We are walking in our healing. We are walking in our true selves. Hallelujah. We're giving all glory to God for our life and our stories. So welcome to my channel. I am super excited that you are here. On this podcast, we talk about my life. We talk about what God has done in my life. How did I get to where I am today after living a promiscuous, and disgusting lifestyle? How did it lead up to this? And is it for everyone? Absolutely, is in Jesus Christ. And I love spreading the news of Jesus Christ to absolutely everyone because this life is for everyone, because this life is in Jesus. That abundant life is in Jesus. Hallelujah. And so I'm excited that God has allowed me to share my story, my testimony that will bring healing and deliverance to others who are going through a identity crisis or allowing trauma to weigh them down, that they do not know who they really are and who God has called them to be. And so with that being said, you can help me by spreading my testimony, spreading this awareness to others by hitting that like button, hitting that share button, and subscribing to the channel. Subscribing to the channel, you'll stay tuned and connected to all the healing, all the delivering, all the meals that God is giving us in his word right over here, as well as any other platform that you are being fed by in the Holy Spirit. So I am just grateful to be a part of many who are trying to reach souls for Jesus Christ. Amen. So with that being said, let's get into this episode because we got some things to talk about. All right, let's get it in.
It's your girl Unique Speaks. Talking about what I'm talking about. It's your girl Unique Speaks. Talking about what I'm talking about because it's what your girl is all about. It's your girl.
So welcome back. Welcome back. We are going to jump into episode 5 right here in the midst of my 4th grade year in elementary school. And this is going to roll into my 5th grade year when the confusion of my sexuality, my innocence, and my reality is in complete confusion and chaos in my mind. And I want to tell you about it. So let's get started. So in 4th grade, my elementary school began to start a dance/step team group. And when I heard about it, I immediately got excited about it because I am one of those ones who love to dance. I have been dancing since I was 3 years old. I believe, and that's what my parents was telling me. And I believe I can even remember so many times that I used to adore Whitney Houston and dancing and singing to her music. And so when this opportunity presented itself, I was so excited. I felt like I had a sense of belonging. I felt like this would be a place where I can fit in and do something I enjoy to do. Okay. And something that I could be proud of and something that my parents could be proud of, because there were parts about my life, at this time of my life in 4th grade where, I innocently just wanted to be a kid, but I really didn't even know what that looked like anymore after so much has happened to me, all the touches, all the feels, all the things I was, coerced to do. It just really didn't see what other people were living and how they were living. When I saw the peers around me, I just didn't seem like I fit in. So when the step team got introduced, I ran to the tryouts. And basically the tryouts was, you have to make up your own little routine and stuff like that. So I came with my routine. I danced in front of the teachers, and there were female teachers. And at the time, I would want to say that maybe they was pretty impressed, to where they immediately let me know I was on the team right then and there, and so I was super excited about that. And when practices began, we were a huge team. It could have been maybe 15 to 20 of us. And we began to just practice. We really didn't have any engagements at the time, but then as we practiced for a few months of that school year, of my 4th grade year, it began to be where we were performing at, different programs, honors days, and different things, assemblies and stuff like that we used to have. We used to have sock hops. I don't know if y'all remember what sock hops used to be. I don't know if I'm sharing my age, but I'm not afraid of my age. I'm 39 years old. And so in elementary school, they had sock hops, and these different dances used to be like almost every other month at this time. I mean, we literally, as children at this time, had a safe place to go to, which was in the school, to go to dances. They would have, a buffet of candy and hot dogs and chips and stuff like that, always on the stands. And we would spend our money. Okay. But back then, $2, $3, $5 used to get you so much. Nowadays, we can see that $5 won't even go that far. But my mom used to give me $6, $1 to get me in. That's if it was just a regular sock hop. If I had to perform, then we got in for free. And then my mom would always give me $5, and $5 would get me so much off that table. And so I used to really, really enjoy that, because, you would hate to be that kid that couldn't get anything. And there was some times that I was that kid. Okay. But however, I used to go up there with my friend, one of my good friends. She stayed down the street from me, and we would go every single time they had a sock hop. And so we performed, and my friend, she was in the step team with me. And it was really, really a good thing. And so going into the fifth grade, it's not too much to say about it in fourth grade, because in fourth grade, we really was just getting the hang of things. But then we got really, really popular. So by the time I got into fifth grade, we were a very, very popular step team group. We were asked to perform at different occasions already going into my fifth grade year. We had a whole school year agenda, lined up for us. So we had a lot of practices and a lot of time that we had to spend together as a group. In my fifth grade year, they did select me and one other step team member as a step team coach or a leader, or like the person who made up the routines and stuff. So me and her would get together all the time. Now, mind you, this young girl, she was the daughter, the daughter of one of the instructors. And so I want to say that she attended school here as well, but she was just in a different grade than I was. And her brother used to attend the practices as well. I used to think, that he was just some goofball, you know what I'm saying? Like it was her brother, and he just to get on our nerves, So no crushes or anything like that, that came from me to him at the time. And so it was just kind of like, he was just like a brother to all of us and just getting on our nerves. And so when I used to spend a night at her house, and we used to, get together and try to create these routines, we would just, hang out. It was nobody bothering me or anything like that. So her mom and the other instructor were very, very, very close friends. The other instructor was a teacher or a teacher assistant at the school that I was attending. So it wasn't too far that I knew that I was going to be hanging with her really, really, really soon, but I didn't know how soon. But once I spent a night at her house a lot, and, I guess, my parents were very used to them, very familiar with them as being instructors, and always brought me home, and I was always safe. So my parents didn't have that open, awareness to where something could be wrong, or maybe we need to ask more questions, or what's this, what's that? I don't know. But nowadays, of course, for myself, because of going through that experience, I don't let my children just go anywhere. I don't let them just, stay with people. I'm asking way more questions, and I'm more nosy, and I just, in the end of the day, and the answer might end up being no, just because of all the things that I'm aware of, all the loopholes that tries to come in on our children. But back then, it didn't seem like my parents knew that way. So they was very, very comfortable. So when the other instructor began to, warm up to me, and me and her got really, really close, she actually had two sons. She didn't have any daughters. So I wasn't so reluctant to spend a night at her house. But she began to be even more active with us. She was already really very more active and hands-on with us, but she began to be even more active with us, even to the point where she was picking me up herself from my home and taking me to practices, taking me to different events that we were performing at. So I began to get very, very close with her. There was even times where I was like, kind of like drawing to her to where I was like, you could be my mom too, like my mom, you and my mom get along. So I felt like, you could be my mom too. I just admired so many things about her. She was younger than my mom. So I would say that she could have been in her later 20s, early 30s. At this time, my mom was almost 40. My mom, just to compare them at the time, because at this age, like I say, about fifth grade, I would say I was around like 10 or 11 years old. And so I'm looking at this placement for myself. Like, I didn't hate my mom, but it was just certain things my mom didn't do. She wasn't the one that would dance with you or, keep up with the times, if you will, the way she dressed or the way she carried herself. My mom was very, very woman. She was an all woman. Okay. She was very, what you call dainty and very humble and sweet, and she was absolutely beautiful. I still to this day, I just love how beautiful my mother is. But however, she still lived that modest lifestyle to where as I was evolving into this young girl, my mom was so much advanced where little things that I would go through probably just didn't interest her as much. But however, it seemed like it was very interesting to this teacher, this instructor in my life. And so she was able to talk to me about things that my mom didn't talk to me about, like boys and stuff like that. She never told me, like, don't do this. You're like, you got a boyfriend? Girl, you like him? Oh, girl, I bet you done kissed him. She used to say stuff like that to me. But not like in a way where it made me feel like she was pushing me on to doing bad things. Not to that I felt like. I felt like it was just a cool thing and that I actually had somebody to talk to. So I didn't realize that it was something that I shouldn't have been engaging in, and the instruction and even the full illustration of the lifestyle of a young girl as myself should be instructed differently. But however, I wasn't nobody to instruct on how they needed to talk to me because I didn't know, so I just enjoyed the moments and enjoyed how she danced. I enjoyed the music she listened to. I enjoyed how she carried herself. She was so youthful and just outgoing. And so I did get to a place where I was so comfortable. My parents were so comfortable that we was like, she wanted me to spend spring break at her home. We was going to do some practices and we was going to be hanging out with the girls. And so I was like so ready for this, so excited for this. I was going to be away for a whole week and I was going to be with somebody. Now, mind you, leaving the house, I was like, Mama, I love you. Mama, I love you. I'm going to have fun and I can't wait to tell you all about it. So it wasn't like I was trying to replace my mom. It was just certain traits that I saw in her that I would love to have in my mom, as far as like being able to talk to her and, share things that wouldn't make her mad. It was just things that I was going through. It was things I was thinking about. And so my parents was just a much older fashioned, parents, and their parenting style were to share with us what they felt was needed to share with us at the age that they felt like they needed to share it with us. So if you didn't have that, even today, we have that. We have other people that are like, like, I'm here for your daughters and, I'm here to talk to your daughters and help them and give them another outlet to, and that's all good and dandy, but we just have to be careful because I didn't realize that I was about to walk into the most chaotic moment of my life, literally. So prior to this week, I want to make sure I mention these encounters. And I did skip a place, and I don't want to skip this because it's very important that these details be involved of how I am building up this story right here, meeting this instructor, being in a part of the step team, how much the step team meant to me, how dedicated I was, and how we flowed through these 2 years, these 2 school years. And so in this fifth grade year, things did get to humping. I'm talking about like we were busy. Okay. And so going into the fifth grade, I always had this particular friend at the time, and she lived pretty close to us, but we didn't always hang out after school. But however, she was just one of those ones that, and I just pray that she, if she hears this, like, look, come for me. We'll talk about it on the sidelines or however you want to do it. I'm just not ashamed of my perspective of how I saw things, and I saw her as very, very pretty. Okay. First of all, hands down. She was light skinned. I was darker. So I thought she was very pretty. I felt like she was prettier than me, and the way she styled her hair, the way that she dressed and stuff like that, I was just like, wow, your parents let you, do some things that I don't get to do. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't really like jealousy or envy. It was just more of like, you know, I like to hang with you, like you're cool and you seem to, have an open mind and knowledge about stuff that I don't. And we was in the same grade. And so when I say knowledge about things, I'm talking about boys. I'm talking about these streets. I'm talking about that lingo that would get you in, making you feel like you was not your age. Okay. Like she would make me feel like I was a little girl and we was in the same grade. And so it was things that she used to talk about, the boys she used to be with. And there was a time that I caught her behind the school with my brother. You know what I'm saying? And I already know what they was doing. I was just like, ooh, we. Okay. So I was just like, okay, so you more advanced than I am. You know what I'm saying? And so me and her got really, really close. We did a lot of dance competitions together, even outside of the group. Like we was pretty tight. And so one of the practices at school, we always practice at school. And the instructor that had the two sons, she began to bring another young man with her. Now, this young man was not her son. She introduced him to us as her godson. And so we was like, okay, and don't get me wrong, it could be godson and it could be nephew, but I knew it wasn't her son. But I want to stick with godson or nephew, okay? And so when he started coming, he was tall, he was very, very cute, and that's the word we used, when we was kids, like, ooh, he cute. And you do those side giggles and all those things. So of course, this friend of mine who was a little faster than me, we could be both fast. I don't care what we want to call it, because we both was having these type of conversations that grown folks have, and we in fifth grade, we should not been having them type of conversations. Okay. We still should have been talking about Barbie dolls, but Barbie dolls was definitely not something I talked about with other girls, because it seemed like they were so much more advanced than me. And so I would try my best to keep up. Okay. And so when they started talking about how cute he was, I was right there with them. I was right there with them talking about how cute he was and giggling, making googly eyes and stuff like that. But he was completely ignoring us. Okay. He was not showing us any attention when he first started to attend practices with us. And it became a regular, like every practice, which we practice almost 3 times out of a week or something like that. He was literally there. She would always go and get him and come back. And I believe she stated at the time he was a senior in high school, and his school wasn't that far from the elementary school, which it wasn't. And so when when he would arrive, we would always just try to dance harder and, and get into our dance moves. And he wouldn't be paying us no attention. But then he began to warm up. Okay. So he began to warm up to us, and he used to, began to come up onto the stage or come close to the stage and help us. And he acted like he was helping us, and then I would see the girl that, who was a little bit more advanced than me, I used to see her, just flirting with him. At the time, I didn't even know what flirting was. I don't even know if I even used the term or not, but I could just see them, having their type of engagements or whatever, like how he looked at her, and I'd be like, oh, I think he likes her, and I knew she liked him, but in my mind, I liked him too. I liked him too as and I was just like, oh, he's cute. I would have never would have thought that he would have liked us, right? Like I didn't know what that was, but or what that looked like. But y'all, I gotta tell y'all for what it is. And so I'm sitting here and I'm looking at how they're engaging, and I was getting a little jealous. I was just like, I wish he would, play with me like that or something like that. So, but I didn't ignore it. Every now and then me and him would make eye contact. And I would just get like all giggly and stuff, because I was a kid. Okay. And so there's this time where I used to go over their house, like I said before, and spend a night with my other team leader of this step team. And her mom and this other instructor were very close. They considered themselves sisters, although I don't believe they were real sisters. I don't know. But I do know that they were very, very close, and how we call each other sisters today. So whether we're blood or not, we're sisters, right? So they were very, very close. And so we would practice all the time at their house if we wasn't at the school. And there was a time right after us practicing, we hanged out, at the house. We didn't leave right away, right after practice. So we just ended up playing. And there was a time that we was actually at the instructor's house that, I began to get very, very close to. And she was the teacher's assistant. Okay. And I don't know if I want to name them, I want to say Miss A and Miss P. Okay. So Miss A is the teacher assistant. Miss A is the one with two sons. Okay. Miss P has the daughter who was the team leader with me on the step team. Okay. So let's just make that clear so I can make sure that y'all can follow me on this story. Okay. So Miss A ended up, staying over with Miss P, and they having their adult conversation or whatever. So us and the kids, we're in the back room at Miss A's house, playing, and we're in her nephew, godson's room. Okay. We're jumping around on his bed and we're playing. He comes in there. He was like, what are y'all doing playing on my bed? And he comes bum rushing us, right? He was very tall, long arms, and he literally could take all 3 or 4 of us down at one time. And so we all landed on the bed. He's picking us up and tossing on the bed. I used to love that because my brother used to do that to me all the time. He used to pick me up and throw me back on the bed, and I would run back to him and he would throw me back on the bed, and I would just keep doing it over and over and over again. And I was very, very small. I'm very short now. I'm only 4'11". So you can only imagine what my height and how tiny I was, in 5th grade. So I used to love to get picked up and thrown. I didn't care how old I was. So there was some occasions in this little wrestling and playing mode. Now it was me, 2 other females that I danced with. I'm sorry, 3 other females that I danced with. And I want to say Miss P's youngest son was in there. And he, at the time, he was really, really young, probably like 4 or 5 years old. He was really, really young to us. So, we was just all in the room playing. So, but the girls, we were the ones playing together, and he was like wrestling with us. But there was a couple occasions where I remember when he used to slam me down or wrestle me, he will always end up on top of me. When he would end up on top of me, he would look at me in my eyes, and it would always give me this feeling of like, I like you, or something I used to see on TV. So I didn't know like what was going on, but I would just look at him like I knew what I was doing. You know what I'm saying? And this is where I wrestled in my mind. And I'm going to talk about this in the next episode, but I want to, and just remember that I'm going to talk about this in the next episode about what wrestled through my mind in this era of my time, and how it affected me longer in my life. These moments right here, and it was more than multiple times where while we were wrestling in this same moment that he would end up on top of me or in between my legs. And when he would end up between my legs, he would make a movement, that he was, putting his private part on my private part, and mushing it and pushing up on me, so I could feel him. And I remember this. I remember this moment happening. This took me back to 3 years old immediately. So I immediately knew that he was doing something sexual to me. I knew then that he was putting his body parts on me because he wanted me to feel him. He thought it would do something to me. It was something that I knew and if it was familiar with. And I didn't know if he was familiar with me knowing it, but it felt like he did. It felt like he knew that I was a girl who was fast enough to let him lay on top of me and do whatever he wanted. He knew that even as a little girl, that I was so like what you want to call just in like with him, and so deeply in like with him, because who knew what love was, that I would just like him back. I would look at him with the eyes and try my best to be older than I was, because I wanted him to like me. I wanted him to. I wanted him to. So the week comes. The week comes that I'm staying at her house, and I'm excited to go. I'm excited to go. I know that he's there, but I don't know what I'm going into. Hey, we could flirt, we could play, I didn't know what that was going to look like. I honestly don't know, but I was excited to go. I was also excited to go and spend the week with someone who I considered to be, very close to me. Miss A was like my mom. And so I remember the first time I came over there, I think I had me a little duffel bag with all my clothes in it and stuff like that. And I remember her sons, they were younger than me, but they were like my little brothers to me. And so she's, she really started to treat me like her daughter, and she began to like really show me that I was at home in her home. And so the first night, I remember her telling me that he was not going to be there, her godson or nephew. He was going out with his friends. He wasn't going to be home. So you could sleep in his room. And I said, okay, now this is my first night. And so I get my stuff together, and, I think I don't know if I took a shower that night or that next morning. I'm not sure, but I remember going directly to his room. I remember being in his room. I remember, maybe having a gown on, maybe having a full pajama set. I'm not quite sure at the time what I had on, but I do remember getting in his bed. I remember being in his room, and his room was very masculine. It was such a boy's room, didn't have much in it besides a bed, a dresser. And I remember this huge stereo on the wall on the other side of the bed. And so it was like a stereo system back in the day, it's like a big tower, like kind of thing. And it had two big old speakers on the side, and they sat on the floor next to the stereo system in the middle. It kind of looked like my dad's, it had the CD, the tape section, and it had all these different little knobs and gadgets and stuff like that. I didn't touch it, but this was just a description of his room. No pictures on the wall. It was a curtain on the window behind the bed, and it was just a basic bed. Wasn't nothing in it to make it feel roomy or homey. It just smelled masculine, like a boy's room, like cologne and stuff like that. And so I just kind of like, just took the room in and laid down. So as I'm in the room, and I believe I, get to a slight sleep, but not deep sleep, where I hear the door of the house open. Now I hear the door of the house open. His room is quite close to the front door of this hallway, and straight down the hallway, which was just a bathroom, another bedroom, and then the master. So it's not a huge house to where when somebody's coming in through the front door, you're going to hear it, from the opening to the close. Nothing had to be super boisterous or exaggerate, like slamming of doors for it to really hear it. I mean, it was just one of those type of homes where you could just hear the little subtle things because it was so quiet. And so when I heard the door open, I knew that it was somebody who lived here, and I had a feeling that it was him, even though she had told me that he was not coming home. And so he comes into the room, and I keep my eyes closed, and I do not move. I remember laying there, and I just know I was shaking nervously, that I was in his room and he was now in this room, and I'm alone with him. I've never been alone with him. I've always been with the other girls on the step team or with his godmother, auntie, Miss A, or, just with the group of people. It just never was alone. And so I began to be very, very nervous, and I just didn't want him to bother me. I just didn't want to be bothered. I was just scared. And I just thought if I be still, you know, if I be still, then nobody, excuse me for that. But if I be still, then nobody will, interrupt. He won't interrupt me. So I laid there with my eyes closed and I don't move. And he closes the door to the bedroom. So he's completely in this bedroom. And I lay there, and I don't know how long I laid there when I realized that nobody was coming. Okay. Nobody was coming down the hallway. Nobody was going to come and check in. Nobody was going to see who came in the house. Or did she know he was coming in the house? To this day, I don't know. But laying there, and as long as I felt like I laid there before the next things began to happen, I knew nobody was coming. And so I'm laying there still as I could be, like I'm asleep. I do not move and I do not open my eyes. I am just hearing him moving around in the room. I hear him moving around in the room. I don't know if he's maybe undressing and putting his stuff away and thinking he's going to go back out and sleep in the living room. Okay. He never leaves. The lights go off. When your eyes are closed, you can see the light that is on. You either seeing the redness behind your eyes because of the light penetrating between your lens. But one way or another, I knew the lights were on, and I knew when those lights went off. The door never opened. I hear him at the radio area, this stereo that I was telling you about that was in the room, and he turns it on. He turns it on, and he plays a song called Cupid by 112. Y'all may know who it is, okay? Now, Cupid by 112 was pretty popular at this time. 112 was a men's group that came out that was very popular at the time. So I was very familiar with it. And so when he played it, I was kind of like, oh my God, why is he playing music? And I just knew when the music came on, they would be coming. The music played and they never came. I believe that I remember him feeling like him touching my foot, and I never moved. And I did not move. To this day, I am not ticklish on my feet because I don't know. I feel like maybe I've psyched myself out because he literally tried to tickle me on my feet to see if I was going to move or gesture, and I didn't. I literally didn't move. I didn't even flinch, on the most ticklish place of most of our bodies. And when he noticed I didn't move, I could hear the rustling of him getting on the floor and maybe having covers and stuff like that, but he didn't lay in the bed. And so this song is continuing to play. I can hear the music, I can hear the bass and the parts that comes on, and I'm just sitting there waiting to go to sleep into a deep sleep so tomorrow can come and this can be all over, literally. And so I'm sitting here and laying there. I'm not sure how long. He messes with my foot again. He messes with my foot again, trying to get me to wake up, and I don't move. He keeps messing with my feet. He literally begins to pull my toes. And I then was like, okay, he knows I'm awake. He knows, like, I'm feeling this. So I do move just a little bit to, like, maybe move my feet away, and then change a position. But then he pulls me down. He pulls me down by my feet. He wraps his hands around my ankles and pulls me slowly down the bed to the foot of the bed. And I am literally not moving. He's like pulling a rag doll because I'm just like, please leave me alone. I'm screaming it in my head, but nothing's coming out of my mouth. So I'm now on the floor. I'm now on the floor and I'm laying there. And I remember I was on my menstrual cycle. And I remember because I remember he took the pad out of my panties. And I'm sorry if this is a little too derogatory for anyone, but this is my story, and I'm going to be as detailed as I can possible. But he took the padding out and pulled down my panties. Again, I couldn't remember if I had on a gown or pajama set, but wouldn't matter what it was off of me. I keep my eyes closed the whole time. I can feel his heavy body on me because he was so tall, and not exactly just big as far as heavy weight wise, but just tall and an old young man. He was 18, 19 years old. And I'm laying here like, oh my God, what is about to happen? And he's laying on top of me. I can feel when his face gets close to my face because I do not open my eyes. And he just says, shh, don't say anything. And this music is still playing. I felt like the song would never end. At this time, I realized that he must have it on some type of repeating cycle because the song never ended. And I'm listening to this song over and over until the moment that I felt him enter me. And it was the most painful feeling in my life. And I just wanted him to stop, but he didn't. I could not move. I could not speak. I could not scream. I could not say anything. There was no moans. There were no touches. There was a still moment of me that I just wanted to escape somewhere in my mind, and that I was just no longer there in the act of what was going on. And then he finished. He finished. And to this day, I can't remember how I got back in the bed. To this day, I cannot remember what happened to my clothes. What happened? Did I, did I put another pad on? Or I could not remember anything after this moment. And for that week, it was like I was a walking zombie. I felt like I was not even myself anymore. I remember the very next morning, Miss A walks in the room and she's like, "Oh, I didn't know you came home." And I just looked at her. She looked at me. And I don't believe that she didn't know. But nothing was said. So I didn't say anything either. That whole week was agonizing. And I don't even think I lasted the whole week because I believed after the next few days, he never left me alone. We went somewhere, I believe we went out to dinner or somewhere to eat or something. We're riding somewhere and it was really, really dark. It was all piled up into this car. It was like a Jeep or a truck, or I think they had an SUV, like a Jeep or something, or Explorer, or some type of one of those type of SUVs. And we were packed in this car. Like I said, she has two sons, and it was me and him, and they're driving, and it's real, real dark. And I remember he laid my head on his lap, and he kept my head down. And I don't know what that meant or anything like that. I can't remember if anybody asked her, like, where's she at? Is she asleep? And maybe they thought I was asleep. But then he pulled his penis out and coerced me to put it in my mouth. It was the most disgusting thing I had to endure again. And I just let his hand maneuver my head, and I just stayed there doing whatever he wanted me to do. Second day, third day, it was always something kissing on me and grabbing on me and doing all of these things. And I don't know if it was the fourth or the fifth day. And I was like, y'all, I want to go home. Miss A and her husband was not home at the time. And I called my mom and I was like, I want to come home. I didn't say much else I don't even remember anything else at her home. I don't remember anything we've done together. I did not have fun. I did not have the excitement or anything. And so when I called my mom, I just had this like allergies or something. I was sniffing and sneezing and stuff like that. I was just like, I just want to go home. I just felt nasty. I felt like I just didn't know who I was anymore. And it took me a long time to really recover from it. But however, I never said anything. I remember when my mom and my dad pulled up, I was literally ready outside. Oh no, right at the front door with my bags, waiting on my parents to arrive. And when my parents arrived, I walked out and I got in the back seat and I did not say a word. And I remember my mom and my dad asking me where was Miss A, and I told her that she had left. They left, and and I'm not sure where they were. And I don't even think they knew I was even leaving. I just knew I wanted to leave, and I never went back. I never went back, and I never spoke to her again. I never said anything to anyone about what happened. I just continued on the step team, and next thing you know, I was coming out of elementary school. But yes, that is where it all began, where the real confusion came in. I was already confused. I was already in my mind about what I was supposed to be like as a little girl and how I'm supposed to carry myself. And now I was different. It took everything away from me that I thought that I was trying my best to hold on to after everything that has happened. But this was a game changer. So remember what I was telling you before. I want to share with you where my mind was. Why did I flirt? Why did I get so giggly? Why was that girl? Well, it's all I knew. And I want to talk about more where my mind was, things that I thought about, and why I did some of the things that I did, and how I dealt with them going into middle school. All right. So stay tuned to the next episode. I know you don't want to miss it because there's more details. There's more you got to know about me. There's more you got to know how the enemy tried to destroy my life, how this trauma ended and led my life, and how did I get here? You got to know. Because if you know, you'll know that there is nothing that God cannot do. You'll know that even though your life it started off one way, you made poor decisions, you did wrong things, you found yourself at the wrong place at the wrong time. No matter what it is, it's not the end. God is not done. And I am a living witness that God was never done with me. And I had to go through all of that because one day God knew that I would tell my story with the boldness and the confidence that He would give me through His strength to be able to share what the Lord has done for me, completely turned my life around and took my old identity and threw it in a fiery furnace. There's no longer her anymore. It's the new me, the me that is in Jesus Christ. And so therefore, no one is walking in a false identity on purpose. You're walking in a false identity in hostage. And I want to share my story with you. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I truly pray that you are receiving so many more insights and awareness, not just about yourself, but maybe even your children. And that we do not be so careless and that we have to think and we are going to have to really have real conversations because our children are figuring it out for themselves. It's worse now than it was when I was younger. But we're going to talk about more. And I want to hear from you. I want to know if you're okay. I want to know how you're handling this story. I want to know if you're finding anything relatable about it. I want to know, do you see God? And do you see the enemy's hand? Because he's all through this story. But however, God is going to get the glory. Can't you see it? Thumbs up this live, this video, share it out with your friends and your family. Let them know that this podcast is all about healing and deliverance. And this woman right here, your sister in Christ, is just sharing her story so others don't have to go through it, so others can be delivered and healed from what tried to take them out. I am a living witness. I am a survivor. I am an overcomer. And I'm standing tall in the truth of who I am and whose I am. God bless you. And I'll see you in the next episode.